you doing, Al? Good, happy new year for a start, and welcome all to the chat with the Governor, Alan Hudson. Uddy, it's been a great weekend. It's FA Cup round 3, where all the big clubs come into it. 50 years ago, you guys got to the final, won the FA Cup. I believe it was the first time Chelsea won the FA Cup, and they had a big reunion. But you wasn't invited, was you?
Well, it seems to be the way that I am never invited. I don't know what I've supposedly done not to be invited, but I was more upset that my friend Johnny Boyle weren't invited, because he remains a staunch Chelsea supporter, and he's having a celebration next week of 55 years of his Chelsea debut, which I'm going to be a part of in Gravesend. And they snubbed him. And they snubbed me, and it's not the first time they've done it. So yeah, I mean, I was enjoying my usual Sunday lunchtime with my friends, and I got a phone call from a pal, and I've been to the ground with him in the past, Tony Jimenez, and he said, "What's wrong with you? Why haven't you turned up?" And I said, "Well, turned up for what?" And I wasn't aware that they were having players on the field. I wasn't aware that they were having a do. And it only really dawned on me when I watched Match of the Day highlights, and I saw that they were wearing our kit. And it all fell into place.
Yeah, Chelsea, through their Facebook, social media and website as well, went to great length and great detail to recreate the 1970 kit, which was a magnificent kit. Was it the same kit that you wore in Athens, the one that you donated to the young Chelsea fan that died? It looks very similar.
It's pretty much the same shirt. Yeah. It's got the gold badge. They're terrific kits. They were, all strips were in those days, because they didn't have none of the sponsorship all over them. And it was great to see a good strip on Saturday night on Match of the Day. But the sad thing is, why should they be earning money out of the success that we had, and yet we don't get acknowledged for it?
No, I found it remarkable, because they seem to put such great detail into the kit. They also went to great detail to relook at revisit the 69 to 70 season, and showed some great goals that you guys scored in the cup run, and it looked, to all intents and purpose, to be a reunion of that great squad, not just the 11 players and one substitute that we had in those days, but the whole of the squad, to invite them back to Stamford Bridge and just to say thank you. And I'm sure Chelsea fans believed that that's what was going to happen.
Yeah, and I think Chelsea fans would have believed that I snubbed them instead of the other way round, which is nothing could be further from the truth, because there's one thing I do have. I do wear my Cup Winners' Cup medal, as you know, and I wear it because of the great camaraderie we had. I love that squad of players. There's one or two that I didn't get on with, but that's happens in any family. But no, I was very, very, very close to the lads. I loved getting together with people like John Dempsey and Marvin Hinton, who were there. So I was very disappointed that I weren't a part of seeing them. I understand why Chelsea don't want me there. Well, I don't understand it, but it's happened on too much of a regular basis for me to really bother about it,
But again, the football club and their feelings towards former players should be taken to the one side, because at the end of the day, it's the fans, and the fans love to see their former heroes. And me being a non-Chelsea fan and knowing you like I do, we talk at great length about the game and about Chelsea. And the one thing that always comes over to me is the camaraderie that you had with those players at Chelsea. You were like a band of brothers, and I just feel that it was such so sad to miss a trick, and I guess as well with Chelsea now blooding so many youngsters from the youth academy, the most local of local players, and one of the most prominent players. Because say I wasn't a Chelsea fan, but I remember Charlie Cook, Alan Hudson, and Peter Osgood. You were the three great players of that squad.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were the three they always pick out as a Mavericks of the team. I was born a couple of 100 yards from the ground. Ozzy was born 3 or 4 miles up the road in Windsor, and obviously Charlie was born in Scotland. But you know, I'm the most local player ever. But I can promise Chelsea one thing: if it had been at Manchester United and Alex Ferguson was manager, he wouldn't have left anybody out. Whether it was George Best, Bobby Charlton, Dennis Law, Paddy Crerand, everybody, whether he would have put all, exactly what you just said, you put all personal problems aside and you invite the people that actually won that trophy for you. And it was their first ever trophy, FA Cup trophy. And the following year, it was the first ever European trophy they ever won. And yet they don't, not even a thank you. And it goes back with me, Paul, from when I was in a coma for 8.5 weeks, back 22 years ago now. My mother was sat by my bedside, being told I was going to die. I had the last rites more than once. And the club never even sent her a bunch of flowers and, you know, wished the family well or nothing like that. So really, when I come out of hospital, none of this surprises me, really.
And that's the thing, because it doesn't take that much, does it, or too much of a thought process to arrange some flowers for your mother, or to arrange a card for you, or to arrange for somebody from Chelsea Football Club to come and sit by your bed, even if they're only going to give you 5 minutes and lip service. But the problem is that they didn't do that. They have done for other players that, let's say, are in a more profiled position in terms of being on the TV or the radio and cutting careers at the football club. But it's you guys that done the groundwork that really and truthfully put Chelsea Football Club on the map.
Well, we broke new ground for them, yeah. Exactly. We broke new ground. But going back to the hospital situation, while I was in hospital, I was visited by Brian Mears, the former chairman. And then later I had lunch with him, and we put all our cards on the table about what went wrong in '74. And we come out, and then I fell out with him. But I still had the respect to attend his memorial because I liked him as a man. And when I was in hospital, there was only one other person, that was Tony Banks, the great MP who was sports minister, great Chelsea fan. He visited me. He came back from, I think Chelsea won the Cup Winners' Cup again while I was in hospital, 97 or 98. And he come back from Sweden or somewhere, and he brought a scarf, and we had a photo done by the bedside. And I remained friends with him to the day he died. And he was my last, him and Matthew Harding were my last 2 friends at Chelsea, really.
Now, let's talk briefly about that great cup run, because it was a magnificent cup run, and it started at Stamford Bridge against my team, Birmingham City, when you put the Blues to the sword 3-0. And that was your first FA Cup game, wasn't it? Your first taste of the FA Cup?
Yeah, first ever. I was just feeling really, I was finding my feet. I didn't really crack it off straight away in the first team, but I found it... I was just building myself up, really, and that was really the kind of the boost I needed and we needed. We overcome Birmingham. It wasn't a great match, but I remember I made the first goal for Osgood, a great header, and we just went on from strength to strength. And I think what's a hurtful thing about this is, I sat in the stands at Old Trafford because I missed it through injury, and watched the boys, pull out all the stops against a really tough Leeds team and carry the trophy away. I mean, it was fantastic. And to think, and a couple of years before that, I was at a semi-final when Chelsea beat Leeds again, and I remember Johnny Boyle running. It was at Villa Park, and Johnny Boyle's run on to the end of Gary Sprake boots, and I see him after the game, Boilers, and he had 6 stud marks down his face, and he was snubbed as well yesterday. So I don't think that was deserved, you know.
Yeah, no, I think
it leaves a very sour taste in one's mouth. And when I watch a game on Saturday night on Match of the Day, and I thought that's how strip they got on. Oh, they're earning money out. They're selling this strip to fans. It's their full strip, and it was our strip. And they do the same with our song, Blue is the Colour. They keep playing that, and it's not their song.
Yeah,
it was our song. We recorded it. Us boys recorded it, and we got it where it was, and now they keep playing it, and the fans think it's their song, but it's not.
And I was still to this day, I believe, the last player to score a goal in every round of the FA Cup as well, didn't they?
Well, that's good. He was a big match player. I mean, he's sorely missed as a man, but as a player, you know, he was kind of. I think only Drogba really could be compared to him as a Chelsea centre forward. It was magnificent. And in 1970, Ramsey failed to pick him in the World Cup, and I missed that through injury. I think I played once or twice, but Osgood was an incredible player, and he would have been there yesterday had he been alive. But that was another matter.
But again, going back to that cup run, the only game that you played out of London, if memory serves me right, was the replay when you went up to Turf Moor.
Yeah, funny enough, it was without Osgood as well, because we drew 2-2 at the Bridge. If we hadn't have had that replay, we'd have been probably the only team ever to play every game in London.
Yeah.
Because we won at Queen's Park Rangers, we won at Crystal Palace, we had the semi-final at White Hart Lane. So yeah, we would have been the only team ever to do, and we were about 13 minutes away from getting knocked out in the replay, and we couldn't find a way through, and Peter Houseman dug us out of a big hole, and we drew 1-1 and went on to win extra time 3-1. Yeah.
Now, how difficult was it with the preparation? And the FA Cup final was the biggest game in the football calendar back in the day. You were playing Leeds United. You must have been absolutely gutted, because on Easter Monday you went down a divot at the Hawthorns, which ruled you out of the FA Cup final and ultimately out of Ramsey's World Cup squad as well, in a tournament that you would have played. And on the final, it would have been your 19th birthday. So everything was written in the stars for Alan Hudson. But there's a famous picture of you throwing a ball to a couple of kids and playing head tennis outside your house in Chelsea. What's your memories of that day?
Yeah, I was pretty numb, to say the truth, and I was choked all the way through it, and then we drew, and I remember walking off at Wembley. They had the Horse of the Year show a couple of weeks before, or a few days before. We wrecked the field. Good preparation by the FA again.
Yep.
And I remember Dave Sexton putting his arm around me as I come off. He said, "We're putting you in hospital, try and get you ready for the replay." But in his words were, "If you had you played today, I don't think we would have needed a replay." Yeah. So that was good to hear from Dave, but I wasn't to make the replay either, so I didn't. And that night afterwards, I went on the field after. I was absolutely choked, and I got the last train home. I didn't even go out with the lads to celebrate. And the following day, I watched from a nearby pub as they went by in the open top bus. So I couldn't even go on there. But they're all my friends, you know.
So was you not invited to go onto the open top bus then? Now, what's the story behind that?
Well, I don't know. I can't blame them for that, because it was kind of out of sight, out of mind, I suppose. They were so busy celebrating. But I didn't hold that against anyone, because I could have went on if I wanted. Really, I could have been a part of it. But I was too upset to be a part of it. It was, and I couldn't. I tell people this and they don't believe me, but it wasn't until I came out of my coma and I read my medical report that I could put that ankle injury behind me, because it haunted me for years. And just missing the FA Cup against Leeds and obviously the World Cup in Mexico.
And you went to absolutely every limit to try and get yourself fit for both the FA Cup final and for Mexico. You went to Harley Street Specialists. You've seen everybody, didn't you, Al?
Yeah. I went to see, the lady who was spin the bottle and everything else. I see acupunctures. I see, as you say, I went to Harley Street. I see the great top man called William Tucker. I think he was Sir William Tucker. And years later, I went to Bermuda and went through Tuckertown. I think he was part of that family. So I was put onto him by a very good friend of my dad's, who was in the boxing game, Lenny Mancini, who was a corner man for some of the top boxers. And he ran our local pub in Fulham. So, yeah, I see everyone. I see witch doctors and everything. Then I married a witch doctor.
First one or second one?
Both.
Well, let's hope with the second reunion, because there must be another reunion, which will be the reunion of the Cup Winners' Cup win in Athens, and that in itself is another story and another cock-up by UEFA, that when the game first was drawn, they didn't know what to do, and they made you stay over in Athens on the Thursday and played the game on the Friday. But I'm sure that Chelsea will be holding another reunion, and let's hope next time that they actually invite all the players. That'd be very nice.
Well, I think the damage has been done now, Paul. In all fairness, it's nothing will make up for what happened yesterday. I think it's sheer ignorance on the part of this, I call the suits. And all I'd like to get, I just like to make the point that I don't want Chelsea supporters, because they truly believe, or will believe, that I snubbed Chelsea yesterday when it was the other way round.
Well, that's why I wanted to give you a quick call and put your case forward and put the truth forward, because when I saw that and Hudson won there, I thought they must have not invited Alan. But lots of Chelsea fans that don't know you like I know you may well have thought that, Hudson snubbed Chelsea, he always badmouths us, he ain't got a good word to say for us. And that has never been the case regarding you and Chelsea Football Club. You've always said it exactly as it is. You absolutely loved them players. You loved the support that you had. The only problem that you've ever had is the way that Chelsea football treated you, and still to this day, 50 years on, still treat you with disrespect.
Well, absolutely. And I think what choked me more than anything to hear that John Dempsey was on the field. He played at Fulham when I was a Fulham supporter. I made my debut with him at Southampton. We lost 5-0 and we won the FA Cup together 9 months later. And Marvin Hinton, one of my favourite people. When I found out that they were there on the field, and I don't get to see them because they live so far away, and I was just choked that I couldn't just walk out on the pitch with them yesterday. But apart from that, I had a good replacement in the Golden Line.
The Office.
But it would have been nice if I'd have known something about it. But and as I say, when I watched them strolling about in Alkit on Saturday, it just was a little bit forced for me.
Well, I'm sure, Al, every Chelsea fan over a certain age would have been absolutely gutted that you wasn't at Stamford Bridge yesterday. Was gutted that couldn't come up to you and says, Alan, thank you for what you've done for our football club. You will always be in our hearts and minds a Chelsea Football Club legend. And Mr. Alan Hudson, thank you. That's what should have happened.
Well, lovely, mate. I mean, I won't lose any sleep about it, because I know what I give Chelsea a lot more than what they gave me.
Top
That's
man.
all I can say about that. Thanks, Paul.
Top man. Al, till next time.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, pal. Thank you.
Good luck.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.